Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and by ladies and gentlemen, I probably mean literally just Peter, because we're so close to the end of the semester that I don't foresee anybody else watching my video, which I don't know what the visuals will be yet, but we'll find out. My first vlog is on the story section of our book, which definitely has a title that I don't remember off the top of my head, but good lord, have I been reading it. That's going to be Understanding Movies by Louise something that starts with a G. Man, dead week, am I right? So this section starts on page 328, and it's about story. And story is really just how we make sense of the raw materials as a coherent whole. There are different genres to these story types. That definitely generally relies on like symbolism and things like that to determine what the different genre is. Maybe not to determine what the genre is, but different symbols are repetitive in different genres. So for instance, like horror generally has a stillness, an unwavering kind of unsettling stillness to it, or darker colors, things like that. Whereas a comedy is going to be light and just a little bit blown out, you know, just too bright. Things like that. Unless it's a satire. Satire does whatever it wants because the whole point is to break the rules, so, you know. But, you know, the genres still stand. Things like that. It's like 2:45 in the morning, I'm doing my best. So these genres are determined by the author, and the implied author is generally the filmmaker. But that having been said, the way we are told this story shifts. So it's not just the director, it's not just the writers, it's not just the producers, it's a combination of all these people. And the different types of people that are chosen for roles, like the stars, actually, they go over this on page 328, actually. The stars that they choose for roles influence the lens through which we see the story. So for instance, man, I wish I knew his name. I'm going to look it up right now. So, in the movie Hugo, if I can spell. So, Hugo, we're going to go with cast. Ben Kingsley. So, Ben Kingsley plays the, this just crotchety, like, mean, like, policeman in the train station of Hugo. And he tries to catch Hugo repeatedly, and that's just his role in the film. But as an actor, apparently he was notoriously hard to work with. If you told him not to do something, he would. If you told him to do something, he would do the opposite. And so, working with someone like that, which granted, I obviously don't know if that's true, but according to, you know, but working with someone like that is a real gamble. Because even though they're a great actor and what they do is really cool and it's expressive, it might not help with the direction you want your story to go. But it might take it somewhere new and better and different that you wouldn't have otherwise expected as a filmmaker. So as far as the different types of genres go, there are tons of genres, but the book broke them down into 3 general genres. So it's going to be realistic, classical, and formalistic. So realistic genres are events that tell a story, generally in chronological order. And when I read that, the movie Arrival came to mind. That has Amy Adams in it, and it's really cool. I'd hate to spoil it if you haven't seen it because it's freaking amazing. But it's been out for a while, so it's not my fault. So the way that movie works is it goes through and it feels like these events are happening in chronological order. It feels very natural. As you move forward, Amy Adams is learning the language of these aliens who've landed on Earth. She's a linguistic professor or something along those lines. And as you get to the end of the film, the symbols that these aliens have been writing in, because they don't speak, are always circles. And once she learns the language, no one else understands it, but she does. She learns the language, and she realizes that, like, time is a circle kind of a thing. And you realize that all of these core scenes that have been building and making her who she is were actually in the future, but she already remembered them. And it's really cool, really great way to think about it. And I just thought that was a really awesome, I don't know, just came to mind. And that's obviously not going to fall into the realistic category because of the backwards nature of it, right? Except, where do you draw the line on that? What is chronological order? Because chronology in the film itself has been changed. So it doesn't follow how we generally view that, but it does follow the chronological laws of that film, of the culture of those aliens, for instance. So I don't know. Food for thought. Thought it was super cool. The next genre that they list was classical. There's obvious shaping and like a guiding hand through the story by maybe a narrator or a main character, things like that. They're generally cuts, they're going to skip boring gaps, and these stories are centered around a specific conflict. Yeah, so for instance, like My Sister's Keeper. I'm picking the worst movies to reference. I just don't remember any of the good ones. But My Sister's Keeper was centered around the fact that this girl was basically, she was born specifically to be an organ donor for her sister, for her older sister who was very sick. And the entire film centered around this little girl's journey to find herself as a person, because her sister was going to die, and they all knew it. And once she did die, this little girl had to be her. And at that point, she learned how to be strong enough to be her. And then her parents were left behind. Not literally, but, they had catching up to do because they hadn't accepted her as their own person. They still viewed her as the backup. And, that's centered around a central conflict. The formalistic films are a subjective perspective. Oftentimes the storyline's manipulated. The movie that came to mind for that one was Gone Girl. Super long movie, super good, because when I watched it the first time, I was so back and forth on who to support, on who I was supposed to be behind. If I was supposed to support her because she's the main character, if I was supposed to support him. And the way the story is told is kind of like watching her lies come apart. Because at the beginning you victimize her, like you villainize him. And so you want her to be right, and because you make that attachment to her initially, and then you watch her betray people, it's really hard because you've already attached to that, and you see that he's just getting screwed, honestly. And just formalistic. Super cool. If you haven't seen that movie, I totally recommend it. One of my favorites. So page 333 goes on to define the story, the difference between a story and a plot. The story is going to be the general subject matter. the plot is the structural pattern to the story, or like the aesthetic, the way the story has been artistically put together for your viewing pleasure, basically. So it's not so much film itself as a medium, but it's like the sub-medium of the medium, sort of. Let's see. After that, the section goes into spectator. So it's talking about the audience and how the audience uses preconceived notions to judge and filter what they see to film. That is going to go so far as time periods that movies take place in, locations, even if someone doesn't understand the culture of a location very well, if what they see doesn't fit what they think they know, they won't accept it as readily. And that also goes for the cast and crew that's included in those films. So for instance, Robert Downey Jr., right after he went through all his garbage, everybody thought he was a super bad person. I bet he didn't do nearly as well in his career then as he does now. Now that everyone's accepted that he's moved past his younger days or whatever, when he was being a jerk, apparently. Honestly, I don't even know what happened because people have just moved past it. And now they see him as a family-friendly icon, as Iron Man. So, let's see. So, going off of that, our preconceived ideas, unconventional films, because they don't follow those preconceived notions, will either inspire us to learn or we'll completely shut it out as an audience. We'll just hate it and won't give it a chance. That's why some people are super into like Sundance Festival and some people think that it's like holier than thou garbage. Just difference of perspective. Details are going to matter to your audience like crazy, even if your audience doesn't realize that they matter. Things like the credit, the score, the title, everything, every little piece comes together in your audience's subconscious to create a theme, to create a message, and your audience is going to pick up on that, even if they don't know why they're feeling a certain way. Your film has inspired them to feel some kind of way. And so it's COVID's. It's important to pay attention to every little piece that you're putting into that. Further on in the section about, in the section about sound and the section about continuity, details are brought up quite a bit as well there. Let's see. Yes, on page 336, Jean-Luc Godard is quoted as saying, there is a quote by him. I do not have the quote right in front of me, but basically he says that every story should have a beginning, a middle, and an end, but not necessarily in that order, which I thought was really cool. And it's just kind of some inspiration to take your story into your own hands and do what you see fit with it and make sure that it fits you and what you're going for. Your film should inspire questions. Always. If your stuff's not in order, you're going to inspire some questions. And, just the thought I kind of came away from this section with was if a story can't reasonably withstand the questions being asked, it deserves to fall. And questions must be asked. Not to say that your questions always need answers, but it's got to make your audience wonder. Maybe they start coming up with their own answers, their own solutions. Maybe it doesn't make any sense, but you get people thinking. And if you can get your film, your art into people's minds, that's when you've done good. So, I'll be back with vlog 2, probably tonight.
boom,